And you get into the bathroom, and it's this super bright fluorescent lights. I mean, like blinding. There's people with just their blouse, underwear, no boots. Somebody with just boots and underwear with a cap. Somebody with a cap and boots and pants, no underwear. I mean, it was magical. You just had everything. It was like watching a character customization screen. And so that was like some nights I would just go there and just like, I want to go see what's going on in the bathroom today. Like, okay. And it became like a social hangout spot because it was the only central place all the camps would go to. So sometimes it was the only place you would see certain people. So over this like week of this like kind of odd Boy Scouts version of the military, we started coming up with nicknames for ourselves because we're LARPing. So, we're doing patrol and we're like, yeah, my name's Johnson or my name's this. And we're trading back and forth trying to find like some sort of show out of it so we can all be a part of it. And we start naming each other. And some of them we already had nicknames, so we'd use those. And some of them we made up this week. Well, we got the bright idea. There was a sticker system on your helmet. And we thought it would be cool to put those nicknames on the backs of our helmets because there was a blank space there. The front had like name, blood type, all that jazz. The back was blank. And we were like, let's just put something there we're not supposed to. This is the military. They'll be totally cool about it. So whenever they weren't totally cool about it, we were lined up in front of one of the stairwells, and they took all the stickers off our helmets that said our nicknames and put them on the railing. We all line up, and God, we start going through the names, and I mean, it's just gold. There was Frost, Iceman. There was I was Cable Guy. There was one dude who he was the guy who worked utility with me, and I'm blanking on his name right now. He was like super jacked, super friendly, but like very like serious, like solemn serious. And we worked utility together. So his name, the nickname that he provided on his helmet was from college, and it was Donkey Puncharello, which if you are not sure what that is, I don't recommend looking it up. Don't look it up. Please don't. No, please don't. And so when the cadre heard this, they all just cracked up, and one of them just stopped. Like the whole scene of this very serious, like, you guys screwed up and you took advantage of our, letting us give you free. Like all these different things were going on. They were trying to shame us about. And then this happened, and they all just like stopped. And this dude that was leading it out just looks over at him and goes, okay, I have to ask, where did that nickname come from? And he's standing at attention, and he's feeling so awkward about it. And he looks up and he goes, sir, it was a nickname in college. And Cadre just puts his head down and goes, I'm so sorry I asked. And so, we had a blast with that. We did the best we could with it. And there's some other stuff there, but I'll keep moving forward. So when I was in the Air Force, there was a time when this is one of my favorite Air Force stories. I was in Las Vegas. We were TDY there, doing something training wise. I didn't keep up with what the whole thing was. I just knew I had to fix it. And so that's all I kept up with. Fixing fighter jets is what I did. I worked on the avionics system, so I worked on the electronics, radar, navigation, targeting, weapon systems. Sometimes I'd help out with engines, environmental electronics, help out crew chiefs if I felt like it, or I'd heckle them as a good avionics person will do, and they will surely heckle back. Something I love about the camaraderie that we had out there was that on days where we really, well, one, weren't supposed to really be out there. We'd be out there for a day where everyone else is off, and then we're just there. We're just walking around the flight line, not doing anything. And so the amount of sark that would bleed out on these days was just beautiful. It was hysterical. And so, like, at any time, if we were working a Saturday or a Sunday that everyone felt was like, rightfully so, just BS, we would start up these noises that would travel down the flight line. And so you gotta imagine this thing's like hundreds of yards long, and a noise will make it from one end to the other because of an animal, and we'll just and then next thing you'll know, you'll hear and you'll hear it go down the line, and sometimes it'll come right back. And it was stuff like that where you're like, you know what? It does suck that we're here. But also, where else are we going to do this? Or else are we going to have a chained animal noise make it, this. I mean, it's just like little stuff like that. And I remember thinking all the time about kind of what was the best way to, like, I sincerely thought about this a lot. I would sit around and I'd go, okay, like, this is important to me, and I really, really want to make sure I do this right. And so I put a lot of effort into pranking people. So much effort went into pranking people. It was relentless. Like, they tried to get me with some of the early bird stuff when I walked in, but I already had, like, kind of lived a little, and so I was like, I hear you, but no. And some of those things were pretty hysterical. One, I will name. I won't go through the whole laundry list that everyone knows. I want to go through some that were specific to ours. Like the ask one of your Air Force friends about the boot tag, and you're taking your boots to NDI. The one I want to talk about is in our break room, in our snack room, we had a ceiling tile that had gullible written on it. And I want you to just imagine the amount of insanity you can send somebody into when you flip it over without warning and you don't tell them that that side is just the blank side. And it's a really interesting social experiment, watching people navigate, telling other people, no, it does say go. No, it said. And their brains are, like, really doing the whole, like, have you ever seen the meme where you see all the math equations and the woman's face is on it, and she's just, like, looking in, like, 4 different directions, like, what? That's what would happen, and it was worth every penny. When I was in tech school, I'm jumping now, but God, I gotta tell this one because it popped in. So when I was in tech school, there was this time where I had consumed way too much pre-workout, like way too much, and decided it was a good idea to run down the hallway, because my friend was down the hallway, and then grab the middle pole of the threshold of the doorway and, like, pull myself forward and then, like, do a flying high five with my right hand. Like, and it all worked out of my brain. All made sense. So I did. It was a bunch of C4, which was the pre-workout, not the explosive. Pre-workout. C4, the pre-workout of pre-workout is quite powerful. And so I bolt down this hallway, and I go to raise my body up to get my trajectory going. I'm calculating distance. Physics, here we go. Well, everything was coordinated in my brain except for the height of the threshold. And so I just nail the threshold at full launch volume right in the top of my skull. Sit down, face covered in blood. like 5-6 people immediately rushed to my side. They're like, "Oh my god, you have to go to the hospital!" And my blood's all over my face, and I'm just holding my head, and I'm just shaking my head because I'm sober, not drunk, not high, not under the influence, just being me. And I just shook my head. I was like, I'm such a doop, and I called myself all sorts of different things. Eventually, made my way downstairs. This blood-soaked rag that somebody gave me, and the MTI or the instructor or the cadre or whatever you want to call him that was downstairs looks at me, and it was like an hour before turnover, and he goes, no, man, are you drunk? And I was like, no. He goes, you're not even drunk? Dude, he goes, I'm not trying to be insincere, but like, I'm supposed to get off in an hour. He goes, man, I gotta do paperwork. All right. Let's do this. All right. I'm accepting this. Let's do this. And I watched him go from like complete denial to acceptance to like, they being like, basically, I'm gonna make fun of you while I do this, and it'll make me be able to finish this task. And I was like, go for it. And so he's popping off jokes left and right. And so eventually the ambulance comes and I get taken to the local hospital. Well, anytime a trainee who has been on site, drum roll please, for less than 48 hours is apparently somebody that the commander or firsher is going to go check out. And so the believe it was the lieutenant colonel or the major, I can't remember what his rank was at this time, but he came to the hospital and he pokes his head around the corner and they're putting stitches in my head and he's like, can I take pictures? And I was like, yeah. This dude's great. And so he snaps some pictures and we talk about it for a little bit, and he says, all right, so what happened? I said, man, I told him, I was like, it's a terrible story. And he goes, that is a terrible story. And he goes, all right, tell you what, you come up with a better story right now, I won't get you in trouble. So what you got? I was like, all right. And then I did. And I looked at him. And this is not just a tribute. This is really what happened. I looked at him and I said, okay, I got it. What I did was I was drinking at our park that we would drink at on base. And this was at Wichita Falls, Texas, by the way, for those who are familiar with the avionics pipeline, or Wichita Falls, Texas. It's a very cloudy place. But we had this park where you would be able to drink at. Unfortunately, there was no bathrooms after like 10 o'clock, so it was just a hot mess. And people would get pretty blasted there, and there was also these giant hares on the base. They were massive, and they were nigh impossible to catch. They were so stinking fast. And there was a running joke that was kind of serious where they were like, if you ever catch one of these, you get phase 4. And phase 4 is where you had full freedom. You were allowed to have your cell phone during the day. You could drive your car. There's all these other freedoms that you don't have at the beginning of tech school. You're very limited at the beginning, and then you get more as you progress through time that you're there, so that you're not overwhelmed with too much freedom after being kind of restricted in basic training, because it can cause you to fluctuate too fast. And so I was like, all right, so I was drinking at Sark Park, and then I saw a hare, and then I went to chase it, and then a bobcat came out of the bushes trying to get the hare too, and it jumped over me, and its claw caught my head, and that's what it is. It's a bobcat claw. And he goes, I love that story. So that was the story. And he said he'd back it up. So I go to my orientation, which is your welcome to base orientation, with a massive head wrap on, because part of the agreement was that I wore the ridiculous under the chin, over the head wrap that was like 2.5 inches thick. He's like, this is also part of my deal. I want you to wear this to the meeting. He's like, if I don't see it, I'm not in. And so he saw it and he smiled. He's like, yes. And so we get into the meeting room, and it's everybody in my tech school class. And he goes, is Airman High Jump in here? And I say, yeah, here, sir. And he goes, how's that bobcat injury treating you? And I went, I'm pulling through, sir. And he laughed and he goes, all right, cool, let's move forward. And everybody in the class is like, what? And like some people know it's like, but some people don't.